Hey everyone, I'm BP, and welcome to my first Draft League video here in the VDL. I couldn't be more excited to kick off week 1, where we're taking on none other than It's Just Matt. Now, Matt and I have faced each other before in the DLC, and while we did manage to secure a win back then, this is an entirely new challenge. Matt's team is stacked with some incredible threats, and we're going to need to bring our A game if we want to come out on top again. Put a lot of thought into my draft, and I couldn't ask for a more intense and thrilling way to start my VDL experience. So without further ado, let's dive into the matchup and break down what we're up against this week. Alright, I know you all see it too. Iron Bundle is a massive threat to this team. Its combination of stab moves alone is terrifying, and it still has room for tech options like Encore or Substitute, or maybe even pivoting options like Flip Turn if Matt decides to play it early. That's not all. His team is loaded with powerhouses like Ogerpon, Garchomp, and his Terra Captain Entei. I'm expecting Matt to bring multiple ways to clear hazards, because Sticky Web could open the door for some serious sweepers like Urshifu or Regidrago. Now that we've seen what Matt's team has in store, let's take a look at who will be stepping up for our side this week. Like I said, Sticky Webs are a huge problem with Matt, so Rabambi hits the field first. I'm slotting Skill Swap to catch Hatterene Switch in to make sure Matt can't block with Magic Bounce. As long as webs are up, Rabambi has done its job, so Moonblast and U-Turn are here to round out the moveset and potentially get off a last hit thanks to its Focus Sash. Urshifu is here to wall break with its stab combination, as well as Swords Dance to pressure Matt's team even further. We also have Protective Pads for the expected defensive Garchomp, which is Matt's best answer to this. Up next, we have who I'm expecting to be the MVP for this week, Regidrago. The combination of a boosted Dragon Claw or Terra Blast Steel completely decimates Matt's team. Enough so that I also put Draco Meteor, which even after the drop from my Jolly Nature, can still knock out both Avalugg and Iron Bundle with ease. Tinglu is here to set up Stealth Rocks and begin chipping down some of Matt's more defensive mons with Ruination and Earthquake. The more Spadef focused build allows me to tank more of his threatening mons, while the 64 defense ensures that I can still comfortably take on Entei. With Iron Bundle still looking incredibly threatening, I needed a more defensive presence to pair with Tinglu. While Tentacruel may not be your first thought as a bundle check, the heavy Spadef investment paired with a Soul Vest actually could take a fair amount of hits. 76 special attack guarantees a 2-hit KO from Sludge Wave, meaning I just need to keep Tentacruel healthy enough to take it on later in the game. Now, here's where things get a little wild with a Hail Mary idea. Picture this. Bundle sees the KO on Torn with Ice Move, only to get caught off guard by Yachi Berry to live the hit and knock it out in return with Focus Blast. Obviously, we have to hit Focus Blast for that to happen, but let's not worry about that, right? It's a risky play, but if it works out, it may just be the key to winning. But that's my team going into week 1. Matt, best of luck to you, and let's get right into the battle. So a little behind the scenes info. I originally decided not to live-comm this battle just because I wasn't too sure exactly how I wanted to present everything yet. Going forward, I plan on live-comming all my battles just so I can share with you guys my thought process and genuine reactions to the game. I even tried going through the entire game as a post-comm, but just found that I wasn't really providing much of any valuable feedback that I felt really added to the battle. So I decided that for this week, I'm just going to speed up the footage of the game while still providing some points of post-comm about the turns I felt like were important to have context for. I apologize if this isn't really up to the expectations I'd even set for myself. I promise going forward I'll have more of a complete presentation and expect a live comm for next week's game. Anyways, let's get back to the game, but for real this time. So this is the first turn I want to talk about. Bombi did exactly what it needed to, bypassing Hat's Magic Bounce after a skill swap, allowing me to get up webs before going down. While planning this team, my goal was to always set up Regidrago in front of Hat, since with the combination of Lumberry and Terra Steel, can ensure at least one Dragon Dance. Clearly I forgot about Mystical Fire, because now I put myself into a 50-50, where Matt has to predict the Terra correctly. Thankfully, I call the turn right and don't Terra, while Hat goes for a Mystical Fire. Now, on the following turn, I can Terra Steel and knock it out with a Terra Blast, putting myself in a strong position. That brings in Milotic, which now gives me two options. After the Sticky Web drop, I now confirm that Milotic is not competitive, which means it can't really do any damage to me. Not that I was ever really fearing an offensive Milotic, but when you commit to a sweep this early, the healthier you are, the better. So I could get up another Dragon Dance and solidify my advantage even further. However, Milotic could be running Haze, and if that's the case, I need to make sure I can still knock it out after. Ultimately, I decided it's better to go straight for damage, as I bring it down to about a quarter, while getting hit with Scald in return. Thankfully, I still have my Lumberry, since Matt's first Scald gets a burn. That could have been bad. With Drago now on a roll, Entei comes out. I know that Entei can Terra into a Fire, Grass, or Fairy type, and the way it brought it in, it is screaming Fairy. Had I gone for a second boost on Milotic, I may have been more inclined to risk Drago again and go for a Terra Blast, but since I'm +1, even getting the prediction right doesn't guarantee the knock, so I instead choose to save REGIDRAGO, hoping I can get another opportunity to come back in later, after Entei has either been dealt with, or I manage to get another boost. I sent in Ting Lu to scout what kind of set Matt brought, and I was correct with it being Terra Fairy, as I allowed to boost with Flame Charge. Remember how I said I was hoping to get one more boost with Drago? Well, I can't block the defog, so webs are for sure coming off the field now. I decide that this is my safest opportunity to get another Dragon Dance off, but I say safe very loosely. Altaria may not have the greatest offenses, but it more than makes up for it in its utility. Specifically, I was anticipating a Will-O-Wisp that could cripple REGIDRAGO for the rest of the game. In spite of this, I still take the chance to bring it out and get a D-Dance off, while Matt uses EQ for some decent chip. Great position again, right? Wrong. Or, I should say, it would have been a great position had I calculated damage correctly, because after my Dragon Dance, I assumed Terra Blast would kill, but Altaria lives barely and knocks me out with one final EQ. What a huge mistake. Well, we all knew it was coming in eventually. After a lot of my team, but especially Tentacruel, has been worn down, I am nervous. Thankfully, even after the stomping tantrum for Mente, Tentacruel was still healthy enough to eat a hit and fire off a big sludge wave. So let's go, Tentacruel. It's your time. Show them what you... And we got frozen from the freeze dry. Man, that sucks. Tentacruel goes down to another freeze dry. And if you could have heard me when this happened live, I was so nervous. But why should I be nervous, right? We still have Tornadus. We still have the Yachi Berry. We're fine. This is it, Torn. We've saved you the entire game for this moment. Nothing else matters up to now. We hit the Focus Blast and we win the game. Everyone who helped me prep said this was a bad idea, but we won't prove them right. Send us home winners. Yeah, that was a dumb idea. I mean, it's Focus Blast, right? What can I really expect? You guys like how I didn't foreshadow that to happen at all? Let this be a lesson to you all. When your win con ever relies on you hitting Focus Blast, just go ahead and prepare for the loss. I'm sure I don't really need to tell you how the rest of this game went. I'll still let it play out so you all can see, but essentially, Bundle proceeded to fire off hits on Torn and Tinglu, while I didn't do much in return. Bundle did end up having Encore and locked me into Ruination. I ended up staying in instead of sacking Torn just because either option had a fair chance to OHKO between Ice Move or Hydro Pump. But looking back at it, my best play was definitely to switch out into Torn for a sack and come back in to click EQ. Maybe that could have won us the game? We end the game with a very narrow 0-1 as we look to recoup for next week. Well, I can't say that's the way we wanted to kick off week 1. I'm not too happy with how the game ended, but I've got to own up to some poor plays I made throughout the game that put me in that position. Still, no excuses. Matt, great game. Next time we face off, I'll be ready for some revenge. I'll be back here next week with my week 2 battle in the VDL, so stay tuned. That's all for now. See you guys soon.